This episode is sponsored by UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics. UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics and the UPMC Sports Medicine Concussion Program are proud to support youth sports across our region and proud to sponsor the high school football preview show on the Mirror TV YouTube channel. To learn more about their board-certified orthopedic surgeons, their specially trained concussion management experts, and the wide range of orthopedic conditions they treat, visit upmcaltoona.com/ortho. To schedule an appointment in one of their offices in Hollidaysburg, Ebensburg, or Bedford, call 814-889-3600. That's 814-889-3600. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of the high school football show here on YouTube TV on the Altoona Mirror channel. Once again, I am joined by Mike Boydum, our all-everything high school beat reporter. My name is Scott Franco. Before we get started, we said last week how we were going to collect hats this week, and we actually got a hat donated to us. It's not from Penn Cambria, which I was told by a Penn Cambria person whose nephew plays for them. He was going to get one to us. That was like weeks ago. I imagine we'll get it when basketball starts. But anyways, we did get one, and we can tell, look at this. You can see if we can zoom in. I don't know if we can do that. But look at the dirt on this Bishop Guilfoyle hat. This is from Cooper Rother, who plays on the team. Cooper's dad gave me a call last week and said he wanted to donate the hat. So we'll kind of put Cooper's on display here, and then we'll kind of move it back to the pack for next week. But thanks for BG, which works out. BG's one of the teams we're going to be talking about. But and we'd like to think that that is not tobacco juice. That is actual dirt from a baseball game. So, but that is part of our
Hey, we
collection.
also now both have the 2 District 6 state champions, BG and Tyrone.
But not Hollidaysburg. We'd like to get that hat somewhere like that someday. Anyways, we're going to talk about our first game Friday night. 2 1-0 teams coming to Mansion Park, Williamsport at Altoona. And I think the one thing people are going to want to know is how good is Williamsport?
Well, Williamsport is pretty good. They're as good as anyone has seen the last 3 years because they have everyone back from the last 3 years. So what people may forget about last year is Williamsport lost to Altoona in the District 4-6 regional championship. But Altoona got real far ahead in that game, and Williamsport was working their way back before Edwin Franklin had that interception return for a touchdown. I think we had the picture of Coach Niedermeyer waving him on the thing, and it was a really great picture. Great story for Altoona to win that game, but it's going to be a challenge. Now, the Altoona's at home. That's going to help them out.
Coming off the big win over Hollidaysburg.
Huge momentum there, and you were at the game. How did Aiden Steinbugle look?
Hey, you know what? I thought he ran that offense with such discipline because I thought he was the wild card. Because I know in that offense that Vince runs, I mean, you have to read your keys. You got to fullback, pitch it, keep it yourself. And I would think from his junior high days, he was always used to just keeping it himself. But I tell you what, he read the defense. And just a shout out to their offensive line. Altoona's offensive line did a really good job, especially in that first quarter. Hollidaysburg kind of caught up after that. But I just think, again, I can't brag enough about the Stroud and the Spriggs kid. Had a nice game on defense for Altoona. A couple other offensive linemen whose names will leave me, I feel bad right now. The Yingling kid, the Klein kid did well. But I think Altoona, I always tell Mike, I'm always offensive, defensive lines. Altoona's offensive line, if they do what they did to Hollidaysburg, I think they have a shot. Our next game, talking about Hollidaysburg, 2 wounded teams playing each other. Hollidaysburg 0-1 at Mifflin County 0-1. Hollidaysburg coming off, like we said, the lost Altoona. Mifflin County 51-6 to State College. The State College is good, but Mifflin County is kind of down. I think Hollidaysburg is looking to get better. this is the team that they want to bump into in week 2.
Well, and it's, Hollidaysburg has a lot of tough teams on their schedule. They have to play Fort Hill, they have to play State College, they have to play McDowell. Those are some tough games, so when you get a game like this, it's a game that you want to win. You got to help the confidence early in the season. The thing is Homer Delatre was really happy with how Hollidaysburg played on defense after those first 2 drives, because the first 2 drives Altoona went right down the field and scored, but after that I think he said they held them to 60 yards the rest of the game.
Yeah, and in the first quarter Altoona had 11 first downs. They had 3 the rest of the game, and they got 1 late in the fourth quarter after a fumbled punt, and they took it down and scored. So technically 2 first downs from the second, third quarter, and most of the fourth quarter.
And Homer also felt like that Hollidaysburg had big pass plays available. It just didn't work out. Timing wasn't there, something was off, and perhaps this week they can get that worked out. Second week, a lot of teams make big improvements from the first week to the second week, and if Hollidaysburg is able to connect on some of those big plays, they can get the offense moving.
Especially, you don't want to play State College at 0-2. Speaking of another team that doesn't want to go 0-2, Tyrone, their home opener, 0-1, coming off of the loss to Bodas, playing a Juniata Valley team that 20-2 in their first week. And I know from my inside source at Tyrone, he was watching a lot of Juniata Valley film, and he's impressed the heck out of their offense. He thought Juniata Valley was good before they got these Williamsburg kids. And then now he's just like, wow, the Palmer kid. I mean, Tyrone, they're in for a tussle in this one.
They are, but they have to be pleased with the way that they stopped the Bellwood Ants running game. Not that they didn't stop them completely, but they played well enough that he can come out of that game with some confidence. He also talked about doing the little things right. Tyrone barely had any penalties against Bellwood. They didn't turn the ball over. That is something that Juniata Valley must clean up. Juniata Valley had 15 penalties for 115 yards.
See, Mike knows stuff.
So
I don't pay enough attention.
They really need to clean that up, because if these 2 teams are pretty equal, I think. So if Juniata Valley has 15 penalties and Tyrone doesn't have any penalties, then that's going to be the difference in the game. And Coach Musser said that he's going to work on making sure that they are doing a better job with that this week.
And think how good they must be. They won by 18 points, and they had 15 penalties. Are we allowed to say you're notable, or do we want people to read your article in the Mirror? Because Mike always puts these notes. If you read our football page Thursday morning, Mike always finds a tidbit for we call it the high school football skinny. Do you want to tell him your Juniata Valley town? This is Mike's little interesting note. Juniata Valley at Tyrone, notable. Leslie Estep, Tyrone's superintendent, is married to Juniata Valley principal Mike Estep. So they're both going to be like rooting for the other to lose. Maybe they'll take each other out for dinner then on Saturday after this game.
And here's a note: Leslie Estep used to be Leslie Iracy, and she was my 8th grade teacher.
Shows either she started teaching young or Mike's really old.
She was very young.
Okay. Speaking of young, because we're going to just look for a segue where we can, Cambria Heights 1-0 at Northern Bedford 1-0 is our next game, and we call that the unique game because they never played in football before. People aren't used to saying, hey, I'm going to the Cambria Heights and Northern Bedford game. Both are 1-0, but do you see anybody that has an advantage in this game?
Well, it'll be interesting. Cambria Heights has looked really impressive in their win against Homer Center. I think that Coach Black is a little concerned about how they can hurt you in the running game. It's a completely different challenge that Northern Bedford had the first week, because Northern Bedford actually faced Southern Huntington, won 7-2, and the Southern Huntington quarterback completed 16 passes against them. They threw the ball the majority of the time, whereas obviously Heights is not going to do that. So it'll be interesting. One of Northern Bedford's strengths is their line, so it's going to be a physical battle back and forth. Not sure who has the edge in that one. I went with Cambria Heights. Who did you pick?
I think I took Cambria Heights too because of their run game.
Yeah, and I just think that maybe Northern Bedford skill players, they're all really young. I don't know if they are ready quite yet, but they're at home and they have some tough games coming up, so they got to grow up quickly.
Yeah. Our last game we're going to talk about, and this is a game where if Penn Cambria can pull off this win, they can join that upper echelon of the Laurel Highlands. Penn Cambria 1-0 at Bishop Guilford 1-0. BG not even challenged last week against Johnstown. Penn Cambria won, but do you think people were surprised by that score? Because I thought even if they did win, it might be closer. But Penn Cambria's got some athletes now.
They do. They have arguably the best quarterback in the conference.
Mr. Harold, Garrett Harold.
Garrett Harold. And you know what? It would have been really nice to put the BG hat up
With
against
the Penn Cambria hat that we were promised.
Man.
Thank you for reminding me.
But the game should be decent because actually last year these two teams played at Mansion Park and the score was much closer than a lot of people thought. It came down to the fourth quarter, and Coach Wheeler is he has Penn Cambria ties,
yes.
Obviously.
Went there, works there, yeah.
Yeah, so there's more on the line than just the game. There's bragging rights, so it should be interesting.
And you got to keep BG's offense. So the Penn Cambria's got to go on long drives, I think. But Harold, he could just pop a pass and boom, it's a quick score.
And something that BG showed last week in Carson Kesey, when it really threw the ball well. That's something that BG's been missing over the past couple of years, a consistent passing game. If they have a consistent passing game and Cooper Rother and Hayden Gardner can be explosive in the running game, they're going to be another tough team.
And a shout out to one of my other BG guys, Drew Abraham, who's in that backfield. He's also a linebacker. I used to coach Drew in flag football in Hollidaysburg. I'd like to think he's good now, that I had a little bit to do with that, but I don't want to say too much. But before we go, we're going to do our cool names segment, Mike's favorite part of the show.
What's the name of the game?
And then we'll put in the graphics later. But my two cool names I'm going to start with, it was from the Altoona Hollidaysburg game last week. Altoona has a killer team. He's an offensive lineman. His name is Logan Klein. Now that'll appear on your screen there. He sounds like a lawyer from a TV show on the CW network. Logan Klein. And then my second name, the kid from Hollidaysburg, you'll hear from him as this year goes on because he's going to play. His name is Elijah Ransom. Biblical, and just that last name, there's so many possibilities for headlines there. Elijah Ransom from Hollidaysburg and Logan Klein from Altoona. Those are our first two entries into the cool names segment of our YouTube football show. But that's going to do it for this week. For Mike Boydum, I'm Scott Franca. Our guest director behind the camera today is Pat Waxmunski. Thank him again, and hope you enjoy that. Go and watch some football this weekend, and we'll see you next week.